If this is happening on the edge of where we're growing our plants, what's actually happening in your garden? And how can we support it? Welcome back. So one of the reasons that wildlife loves a woodland is because you've got layered planting. Even in a small space, you can create a small area of woodland within your garden in a mini scale. Key is to create layers of planting, and that's then going to help to create the same woodland effect that is going to help to create the habitat for insects and birds to be able to come in and spend more time within your garden. This time of year, something that's going to give you a bit of height and structure would be an Amelanchier. This has spring blossom followed by blue blackberries for the birds and fiery autumn foliage, so it's a really nice tree, but also as it grows it creates a mid-level canopy which is going to provide habitat for birds. I've then just pulled together again a woodland edge plant. This is Calamagrostis brachytrichta that we cut back in a vlog a few weeks ago. This will grow to about 3 to 4 foot in flower, so again it will help to create cover, mid-level cover within the garden for insects and birds, as well as providing food over the autumn winter for the birds to eat the seed. Early season flowers from Hellebore orientalis or Lenten rose, and early season flowers for Woodland's edge would be Denticulata. And then for summer flowers and ground cover, plantain lily or hosta, that one's wolverine that I've pulled there. That will form a carpet of ground cover and send up some lovely lilac flowers over the summer. Different heights, different range, and in the spring while the grass and the hosta are low, the hellebore and the primula will enjoy the open habit and come and provide flowers for early season interest. So you've got a prolonged season, different heights and different structures, and you're trying to mimic what we've just looked at in the woodland within your garden in a small area. One of the ways to bulk up your plants within a garden at this time of year, because it's ideal, late March, early April, for splitting some of the perennials as they're starting to move, is to split and propagate, which is how we're then producing more plants, and also that's going to enable you to be able to bulk up your material and use the same plants in different areas and create a better habitat, better spread of habitat throughout your garden. As you can see in the centre of this clump now, it's starting to get quite woody and quite dense. So it's been gradually splitting, or needed splitting for a while now. So that clump I'm going to take up and we'll run through how to split it. In the tub here I have my plants that are now ready for splitting and potting on. So these, in my assorted plants here, I've got Valerian and I've got some Cirsium that I've then split off. That's actually already come away. So I'm just going to pop that on. Very, very, very simply. Into my bag. I don't need too much compost in this. I don't need to fill it right to the top at this stage because that's quite a young plant. But because it's actually got a flower bud in there now, I'm actually going to debud it. So that the energy of that plant is now going to go into rooting and producing new foliage rather than producing flower. This is a biodegradable planting pot or biodegradable bag rather than using a pot. That's just one little division that came off the Cirsium. If I lift that clump of Valerian that we lifted, and it is really just a case of very gently pulling that apart. And now instantly from one clump I've got two. I am having to keep these bags in my pocket because of the wind. We're using our own mix of compost, which is topsoil and peat-free multi-purpose compost mixed with a little bit of grit and sand. And then just With these pots, we always find it's easiest just to bounce them up and down. I don't want to over compact the roots, but at the same time, I just want to make sure the roots are covered. With that valerian now, because that shoot is becoming the flowering shoot, I am just going to pinch that off, which is then just going to encourage plant to send more roots out and be more compact as that then develops. The most important thing with these is I want to get them split, potted, and then I'm going to give them a really good drink and stand them somewhere just out of some of this wind. So if you're doing this at home, whereas I am very carefully teasing these plants apart and just separating them, there is absolutely no reason why that clump couldn't just be planted into another part of your garden. You just dig a hole, heel it in, cover the root, give that a really good drink, and that's ready to go. When you've lifted your clump, it is, with a perennial such as Cirsium here, it is very, very easy just to get in and gently sort of tease between those roots and pull. I'll just take out the celandine from there. We've got one. Again, if you were in the garden, this would be going straight back into the ground and making sure that you're giving it a good drink afterwards. And I think if I'm very careful, there we go. 2 and 3. So in essence, that's 3 baby plants from one clump. And I'm only part way through that one clump that I lifted. So splitting is very, very simple. By bulking up the plants and bulking up pockets of habitat you're creating in your garden, the more chance you are of seeing what's actually going to come in and visit. Reolink very kindly, they sent us a wildlife camera. So if you come with me, I'll show you how we set the camera up. So the camera itself is a pan and tilt, so it should actually track the animals for us. 4K resolution. We've just put in a SIM card and powered it up and connected it so that it's now should be live. So far, it's actually going quite smoothly. It's now connected with the antennae, USB port, which is the power port. Camera's turned on, and I've got my solar charging panel and my camera ready for setting up. And most importantly, before we did this, we have now downloaded the app and connected the SIM card, so we're all ready to go. So the next thing we're going to do is go down and get it set up on a tree. So we're going to trial it first. I'm actually just going to put it pointing out across the woodland down towards the river and just see what is being coming up and down. It's likely to move into a few different positions, but I just want to trial it setting down and looking across to my left over there now. Okay, I have absolutely no idea whether this is going to work just here. I am just literally trying to set it up initially just to see. It is now currently tracking my fingers. Okay, so we've initially put it up just underneath the owl box here. Throughout this area there has been evidence of deer moving and bits and pieces, so we're quite excited to see what we can actually capture. What I want to do eventually is to move it back down and get it closer to the watering hole, i.e. the river down at the bottom. So this is the camera, antennae just at the back here, and solar panel. But initially, just underneath the owl box that we've set up, I'm just going to see what we pick up for a few days and see what we manage to capture. So when we set this camera up, the very first thing I think was a great tip, but if anybody knows for sure, please let us know in the comments. But literally within minutes of leaving the camera, it was one of the first things, it was activated. If we're stood in the garden watching the birds, quite often they'll react in a different way, but with the camera we can actually see how they're reacting, and it's a lot more natural. Key thing is spring is an ideal time for dividing and bulking up your plants. By dividing plants, you're creating additional habitat. The more habitat you've got, the denser you're planting, which is going to help the wildlife to come in and spend more time in your garden. Thank you very much for watching.